I spent 5 years assiduously currying favor with my father and mother-in-law, and with their strong support, I married their only daughter. As their son-in-law, I became the CEO of the Sioux Corporation, and everything went smoothly from then on. However, at the celebration banquet for a major project, my wife appeared with a pregnant belly, arm in arm with her white moonlight, Cheng. Marrying a commoner like you was just a compromise. Now that Cheng and I have rekindled our relationship, the father of my child is the only one qualified to be the CEO of Sioux Corporation. You, the live-in son-in-law, are fired. Get lost! I glanced at my father and mother-in-law, who looked like they wanted to say something but hesitated, and sighed, "You don't have the right to fire me. I'm giving you one last chance. Get rid of the baby and break up with him, and we can still be a family." Everyone laughed at me, thinking I was crazy for trying to have it both ways, wanting to continue living off my wife while still asserting myself. I put my hands in my pockets and gave a cryptic smile. You guessed right, I really do have the right to keep eating the soft rice. After hearing my words, the celebrity-filled banquet hall fell silent for a moment. Then, a wave of uproar swept through the guests. Mr. Wang must be out of his mind. If it weren't for the Sioux family, he wouldn't have everything he has today. What's he bragging about? What Mr. Wang? He's just a live-in husband. Once he's fired, he'll revert to his original form. If I were Wang Ze, I'd just give in. The child wasn't going to take your name anyway. What does it matter if it's not yours? Since you're getting a free baby, you should be happy. Amidst the jeers, Su Ruoyan frowned slightly, looking down at me with her usual sense of superiority. Wang Ze, don't try to act tough when you're not. You don't have the capital. After all, you're nothing without me. Looking at her beautiful face. See, I couldn't help but feel a pang of regret, remembering all the past affection and intimacy. 3 years of marriage, you want to end it just like that, and you even want to kick me out of Sioux Corporation. Did you ever think about how you're going to explain this to your parents? Su Ruoyan's face turned cold, and a look of disgust flashed in her eyes. If you hadn't shamelessly flattered my parents, do you think you could have married me? But we're ultimately from 2 different worlds. I can't live with you anymore. What right do you have to be the CEO of Sioux Corporation? Of course, my parents will side with me too. Is that so? I crossed my arms casually, my tone indifferent. That's not necessarily true. Seeing me so confident, the guests were stunned. Does Mr. Wang have a trump card up his sleeve? Come to think of it, the Sioux family was just ordinary gentry before. Mr. Wang took over 3 years ago, and the market value has multiplied several times. Yeah, not to mention this billion-dollar project. Even if Sioux Corporation just sits back and does nothing, it'll be enough to live off for years. Seeing the crowd gradually begin to praise me, Cheng couldn't stay calm any longer. He snorted from his nostrils and looked at me contemptuously. No matter how capable you are, you're just an employee. Once you're fired, you're less than a dog. Know your place. You're not the same as us who were born lucky. I ignored Cheng's sarcastic remarks and asked Su Ruoyan seriously, "Is that what you think too?" Perhaps thinking of how hard I worked, Su Ruoyan looked at me with a hint of pity. "It's my decision to fire you, and it can't be changed. Here, I'll give you $100,000. Let's part ways amicably." I found it absurd. You want to buy out my 3 years with $100,000? Just today's billion-dollar project, you'd need to add 2 zeros to that amount. Su Ruoyan casually smoothed her hair, scoffing dismissively. Think it's unfair? But what right do you have to talk about fairness with me? Wang Ze, you should remember that you didn't sign a contract, right? So even if I kick you out without spending a penny, it's only right and proper. Be smart and take the money and leave. As soon as she said this, everyone turned to look at me, their gazes filled with pity, surprise, and schadenfreude, almost drowning me. I just shook my head with a self-deprecating smile. I thought I was working for my own family, so I didn't sign any contract, and I never expected Su Ruoyan to want Cheng to replace me. Cheng was her first love. That kid was so heartless when he left her to develop overseas. He hadn't been heard from for so many years, but as soon as I brought Su Corporation back on track, he came back so quickly. It looked like he was here to pick up the scraps. I just hated that Su Ruoyan was blind and heartless, treating me so cruelly for a man who had abandoned her. Thinking of this, I was filled with anger and spoke in a cold voice. Su Ruoyan, you don't have the right to fire me. I'm only giving you one chance. If you get rid of the baby and focus on me wholeheartedly, we can still be a family. But this is your only chance. Su Ruoyan looked at me in disbelief at first, then pointed at my nose and shouted coldly, "What do you think you are, daring to order me around? I'm carrying the Su Corporation's heir. The only person I'll love wholeheartedly in the future is Ah Cheng. As for you, even if you kneel down and beg me, you'll only be fired." Everyone shook their heads, laughing at my overestimation of myself. But I didn't care, because they were all wrong. I never make empty promises. I only had enough confidence to give Su Ruoyan this final ultimatum. If I hadn't promised my father and mother-in-law to love and cherish her, she wouldn't have had a chance from the moment she cheated on me. I stared at her intently. So you're saying you want to fire me for this mistress and div? Orse me. Watch your mouth, Wang. Kuo-cheng immediately became anxious and yelled at me, the one who isn't loved is the mistress. Are you brain dead that you don't even understand this basic principle? Su Ruoyan leaned into his arms without hesitation. That's right, Wang Ze, I don't want you anymore. Without this relationship with me, you're not qualified to be the CEO of Su Corporation. Ah Cheng and I, and our love child, are a family. What a pity. I sighed softly. Su Ruoyan, you didn't seize the last chance. Su Ruoyan's face gradually turned cold, and her expression was full of disgust. Stop trying to be mysterious. Do you think you're still the all-powerful CEO of Su Corporation? You'll have nothing without me. Who cares about your broken chance? Kuo-cheng even poked my forehead, bossing me around. Are you a dog, only knowing how to bark? While your brain hasn't completely broken down, quickly hand over the project. From now on, I'll be responsible for everything at Su Corporation. I slapped his hand away without any politeness. What makes you think any Tom, Dick, or Harry can be responsible for this project? Wang Ze, what the hell is wrong with you? Su Ruoyan pushed me hard, then held Kuo-cheng's hand with concern. Does it hurt? Kuo-cheng gritted his teeth. Ruoyan, since he doesn't know what's good for him, don't be polite with him anymore. Su Ruoyan nodded solemnly and looked at me contemptuously. It doesn't matter if you don't cooperate with the handover. Even you could handle the project, so of course an elite like Ah Cheng can do it too, and my dad will help Ah Cheng. I couldn't help but laugh. Where do you get the confidence that your father will accept him? Su Ruoyan looked at me like I was an idiot, her hand gently resting on her lower abdomen. Ah Cheng is the father of my child, the father of the future heir to Su Corporation. Just this alone means you've lost completely. Looking at her smug and self-righteous appearance, I couldn't help but kindly remind her, being with him doesn't necessarily mean your child will be qualified to take the Su surname. Nonsense. Kuo-cheng laughed wildly. My and Ruoyan's child will of course take my surname, Hua. Even Ruoyan will take my surname in the future. The guests couldn't help but laugh. Does Wang Ze think everyone is like him, a live-in husband who agreed that the child would take the woman's surname when they got married? The Hua family and the Su family are well matched. Of course, the child will take the man's surname. Chairman Su only has one daughter. Won't Su Corporation belong to this child in the future? Su Ruoyan looked at me with disgust and announced impolitely, Wang Ze, it's useless for you to pester. You're fired. From now on, Ah Cheng will be the CEO of Su Corporation. I sneered nonchalantly. I said, you don't have the right to fire me. Hearing this, everyone laughed like they had heard a joke, pointing at me. Kuo-cheng also made no secret of his ridicule and contempt. Wang, stop being stubborn. You've offended Su Corporation, so not only are you fired, but no one in this industry will dare to hire you in the future. Your good days are over. Everyone shook their heads, saying I was stupid. I could have gotten compensation, but now I have nothing and have completely ruined my future. But I didn't care. Instead, I straightened my chest with confidence. I looked around, looking at each and every guest present. Do you think I should be fired given my capabilities? Those who were able to attend the celebration banquet were all companies that had deep cooperation with Su Corporation. Su Ruoyan had always been a pampered young lady. Her father used to manage the company, and then he handed it over to me. The people present didn't know much about her, but they had all dealt with me. Some people's companies were on the verge of bankruptcy, but I had the foresight to see their projects and helped them through cooperation. Afterwards, they gratefully said that I was their savior. Some people were initially prejudiced against me, this live-in husband, but they were convinced after repeated cooperation and became sworn brothers with me. As for those who rushed to curry favor with me and wanted to maintain a relationship with me, there were even more of them. But now, they were either avoiding my gaze or making no secret of the contempt in their eyes. Wang Ze, it's no use looking at me. If you had been willing to part ways amicably with Su Corporation, I might have considered taking you in and giving you a bite to eat. You're capable, but it's a pity you've gone too far. There are plenty of talented people. We don't need to offend Su Corporation for you. What do you think you are? You won't be able to make a living in this industry in the future. Remember to keep your tail between your legs next time. If not, you can find another woman to live off of. After all, that's your old profession. Later, bursts of unbridled laughter echoed through the banquet hall. Those who had once held me high were now beating a dog in the water. This scene reminded me of what my father-in-law said when I first took over Su Corporation. He said that when things are going smoothly, everyone around you is a good person, but when you fall into trouble, it's not necessarily the case. Looking at these snobbish and hypocritical faces, I had a personal experience, but unfortunately, I wouldn't let them have their way. I stopped giving them a look and said in a deep voice, I'm putting my words here today, no one present is qualified to fire me. You soft rice-eating thing, how long are you going to be shameless? Ching gritted his teeth and roared at me in exasperation. Ruoyan has abandoned you. You don't deserve to stay in this kind of high society. But I just treated him like he was barking and instead took a glass of champagne. Calmly shook the glass, and slowly tasted it. Perhaps it was because I looked too calm that everyone hesitated, thinking that I might really have a backup plan. In the huge venue, no one dared to kick me out. Su Ruoyan didn't believe that I could turn things around. She rolled her eyes at me annoyedly and looked towards the door frequently. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. Mom and Dad, you're finally here. Wang Ze, you said that no one at the scene can fire you. My dad always has the right, right? Su Ruoyan proudly took her father's arm and spoke arrogantly. What she said was right. Although I was the CEO of Su Corporation, I was also working for my father-in-law, the chairman of the board. He did have the right to decide my future. Dad, I know Wang Ze is good at flattery and you like him, but I'm in pain with him. The only person I love is Ah Cheng, and I'm already carrying Ah Cheng's child. Please grant us our wish. Uncle and Auntie, hello. Cheng put away his arrogant expression and smiled like a human. My father-in-law had always disliked Cheng, especially since he had dumped Su Ruoyan before. But now, looking at Su Ruoyan's pregnant belly, my father-in-law endured it and didn't say anything. My mother-in-law hugged Su Ruoyan with heartache. Why are you so impulsive? Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere now? I wasn't originally, but Wang Ze made my stomach hurt. Su Ruoyan snuggled in her mother-in-law's arms, saying coquettishly. Hearing this, my father-in-law looked at me solemnly, his eyes full of dissatisfaction. Originally, the guests were somewhat shaken because of my confident appearance. But seeing my father and mother-in-law's love for Su Ruoyan, everyone no longer doubted it and completely believed that I was just putting on a show. Su Ruoyan curled her lips with a smug look. Mom and Dad, I want to divorce Wang Ze. If you like someone to care for you and wash your feet, just find a few considerate nannies. A real man can't do something so lacking in self-respect. As long as you get to know Ah Cheng better, you'll definitely like him. Su Ruoyan's eyes were filled with undisguised disgust. Everyone heard that I even washed their feet and retreated, avoiding me as if I were something dirty. Cheng saw that I couldn't turn things around and laughed wildly. So what's the use of being a bootlicker? Without status, without a foundation to rely on, you'll end up with nothing in the end. My father and mother-in-law were about to speak, but I waved my hand to stop them. Su Ruoyan looked at this scene in surprise and immediately scolded me angrily. You used to do whatever mom and dad told you to do, but now you dare to stop them from speaking. Are you just trying to break the pot because you see that there's no hope with me? You're really not a good person. Mom and dad, can you bear to see me with someone who's so insidious? I want a divorce, please agree. Hu Qing immediately took over. Uncle and auntie, you don't want Ruoyan to be pregnant and the child to not have a name, right? As long as she gets a divorce, I'll marry her immediately. My father and mother-in-law looked at me and then at Hu Qing and Su Ruoyan holding hands tightly, and sighed deeply. What a pity, it seems that if you're not family, you can't force it. Ruoyan, do whatever you want. Su Ruoyan was overjoyed and immediately asked someone to bring the divorce agreement. Wang Ze, you could have gotten compensation, but you were too greedy. Once you sign, you'll have nothing to do with me, and you'll no longer be the CEO of Su Corporation. Everything is your own fault. The laughter of the guests was overwhelming. Su Ruoyan impatiently urged me to hurry up. Since things had come to this, I readily signed the divorce agreement. Now that we have nothing to do with each other, it's time to let you know where my confidence comes from. I dropped the pen and said to Su Ruoyan word by word. Su Ruoyan ignored my words. She picked up the divorce agreement and carefully checked my signature. After confirming that I hadn't played any tricks, she breathed a sigh of relief and revealed a happy smile. Ah Cheng, I'm finally free. I can marry you. Hu Qing couldn't hide his excitement either. Ruoyan, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. But before that, we should get rid of this pest. After all, he's still talking tough. After speaking, Hu Qing protected Su Ruoyan behind him and looked at me with a smile. Say whatever you have to say quickly. I want to see how you're going to end this bragging. Su Ruoyan also snorted coldly. Wang Ze, I'm only giving you half a minute. If you're still acting mysterious, I'll have to ask you to leave. After all, today's celebration banquet is for the CEO of Su Corporation, which is Ah Cheng. This has nothing to do with you anymore. Everyone also looked at me with a clown-like expression, certain that I was just talking nonsense. At this time, I didn't say anything, but instead looked at my father and mother-in-law. Oh, no, I can't call them that anymore. Mom and Dad, why don't you explain it? Su Ruoyan glared at me angrily. Shut up. I'm already divorced from you. Can you even call them Mom and Dad? Hu Qing quickly comforted her and called the security guards. There's no need to listen to this madman's nonsense, just kick him out. Wait! Chairman Su, who had been silent since entering the banquet hall, directly stopped Hu Qing. The aura he had accumulated over the years was still there. With just 2 words, everyone stopped moving and waited quietly for him to continue. 8 years ago, we discovered that Ruoyan wasn't our biological daughter because she had a minor surgery. After searching for a long time, we learned that our child had been switched at birth. Wang Ze is clearly our biological son, but he was switched with Su Ruoyan. My dad's words were like a drop of water into a hot pan, causing an uproar. Not only were everyone shocked and discussing it, but Su Ruoyan was also stunned and staggered back a few steps. That's impossible, Dad, can you be sober? Even if Wang Ze is good at flattery, you can't make up such a big lie to keep him. What about me? I'm your own daughter who you raised since I was a child. My dad looked at her with some disappointment. When we found our biological son, we should have put everything back on track, but because we raised you since you were a child, we had feelings for you and couldn't bear to do it. So we asked him to try to pursue you for our sake, so that we could still be a family in the future. My mom also looked at her with mixed feelings. Did you think that Ace was good to us, washed our feet, and cared for us to flatter us? No, he was just trying to make up for the many years of lost kinship and to fulfill his filial duty to us. This child has a good heart. He readily agreed to be a live-in husband and agreed that the child would take your surname, just because he should have been named Su, so of course his child should also be named Su. Do you understand now? Ace was able to become the CEO of Su Corporation not because he married you, but because he was originally the heir to Su Corporation. It's his rightful place. As the truth was revealed, everyone's eyes on me changed dramatically. The guests who had been sneering at me and mocking me were now all smiling. Mr. Wang, oh no, President Su, I've always said that you're a talented young man. You managed Su Corporation so well. It turns out it's because of good genes. It's really like father, like son. President Su, I'll always remember the kindness you showed our company. I didn't speak just now because I wanted to help you afterwards. Since it's all a misunderstanding, President Su is magnanimous and won't hold it against us. I hope we can cooperate more in the future. The smiles of the past were back, but they no longer had any value in my eyes. I snapped my fingers, signaling them to stop. Be quiet, don't stop me from watching the show. From the moment Su Ruian betrayed our marriage, wanted to fire me, and kick me out, I wanted to know what her reaction would be after learning the truth. Mom and Dad, even if Wang Ze is your biological son, do you really want to abandon me for him after so many years of feelings? Su Ruian couldn't accept it. The arrogance on her face was gone, and she grabbed my parents pitifully. After a moment of silence, my mom and dad gently but firmly let go of her hand. Because of the many years of feelings, we gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Ace is loyal and righteous, but you've really disappointed us. Since it was originally a mistake, let's correct it now. You're no longer our daughter. Su Ruian never expected that her parents, who had loved her so much, would say such heartless words. She couldn't take the blow and lost her balance, falling into Hu Cheng's arms. Su Ruian immediately grabbed at him like he was a lifeline, looking at him with anticipation. I'm glad I still have you, Ah Cheng. When are you going to marry me? My baby and I are waiting for you to give us a home. Hu Cheng looked disgusted. He wasn't as gentle as my parents and pushed Su Ruian away forcefully. Su Ruian, I was just playing with you. You should get rid of the bastard in your stomach. The woman I, Hu Cheng, want to marry is an heiress who is a good match for me. You're not worthy of me. Hu Cheng struggled inwardly and squeezed out a smile at me. President Su, there are no eternal enemies, only eternal interests. I hope that Su Corporation and Hu Corporation can join forces in the future. This is my business card. Looking at the business card he handed over respectfully, I pinched it with 2 fingers and glanced at it casually. Then, I threw it on the ground and stepped on it. You. Hu Cheng lost face and his expression immediately turned ugly. Can't even take this? Don't think I don't know that your Hu family couldn't make it overseas and wanted to rely on Su Corporation to get through the crisis. You're right, there are only eternal interests in the business world. Now is a good opportunity for us to take advantage of your misfortune and acquire the Hu family. Hu Cheng's face stiffened. He looked at my confident smile and then at my dad's supportive expression, knowing that I wasn't joking, and finally became afraid. But after a moment, he spoke again. Don't do this, President Su, I'm actually helping you. Su Ruian is a fickle woman. Wouldn't it be a big loss if you were with her for the rest of your life? I helped you test her, so you can cut your losses in time. You can find any woman after you kick her away, right? Su Ruian was shocked and angry, glaring at him. Just now, this man was still caring for her, saying that he was looking forward to their love child and vowing to marry her. Now, in order to protect himself, he was belittling her so much. Su Ruian angrily pounced on Hu Cheng. That's not what you said when you came back to pursue me. You said that you've never forgotten me all these years, and no matter what my identity is, you just want to be with me. Even if I'm a married woman, you can't help but love me. How can you say this now? Hu Cheng pushed her to the ground. You actually believe that excuse? No wonder I couldn't figure out how Chairman Su could give birth to such a stupid woman. It turns out she's not his biological daughter. I left you because you lost your value. You're really good at forgetting pain. You'll come looking for me as soon as I wave my fingers. If I didn't think you were the daughter of the Su family and the billion-dollar project, do you think I would dare to marry you? After all, you're so easy to fool. What if other men wave their hands in the future and you cheat again? You are. Nothing now. I'd think you were dirty if you even shined my shoes. Su Ruoyeon clutched her stomach in anger. Seeing a look of intolerance on my mom's face, she saw hope. Mom, you still have feelings for me, right? You were still concerned about me when you heard I was pregnant, and you felt sorry for me. Now that I'm being bullied, are you really not going to care? My mom sighed. Feeling sorry is an instinct, but when I think about what you've done to my biological son, I know that some things should be cut off. Considering the many years of feelings, take 5 million and leave. From now on, you and our Su family have no relationship. I have to say, my parents were still very generous. Looking at Su Ruoyeon over the years, she had lived a life of luxury since she was a child. She was mediocre in everything, so her parents let her do whatever she wanted as long as she was happy. Even now that she had caused trouble, they were still willing to give her 5 million. With her ability, she probably wouldn't be able to earn that much money even if she worked for the rest of her life. Everyone also praised the Su family for being generous, like philanthropists. Even Hu Qing was slightly stunned. He looked at Su Ruoyeon with obvious scrutiny, evaluating whether Su Ruoyeon still had any value. Unfortunately, Su Ruoyeon couldn't be helped. Upon hearing 5 million, her eyes widened as if she had been insulted. What? The Su family is a listed company, wealthy, and the project they just negotiated is worth billions, and you're only giving me 5 million? Are you treating me like a beggar? That's too much, you're really inhumane. She was so angry that her hands were shaking. After a moment, she suddenly thought of something and eagerly picked up the divorce agreement. Su Ruoyeon flipped through the clauses and then laughed triumphantly. You must have forgotten that you made a will a long time ago and gave everything to me. And I just divorced Wang Ze, it's written ve. Read clearly that he left with nothing, which means that Su Corporation is mine. Su Ruoyeon flipped out the clause on the divorce agreement that I left with nothing and also took out her phone, which contained the will that my parents had taken a long time ago, which clearly stated that everything of the Su family belonged to her. She looked at her phone and then at the divorce agreement, smiling like a winner in life. The sudden change caught everyone off guard. Everyone went up to see the contents clearly, and their eyes quickly changed. If Su Corporation was in my dad's and my hands, everyone would only flatter us and think about how to cooperate and get a piece of the pie. But if Su Corporation fell into the hands of the brainless Su Ruoyeon, it would be like a child holding gold, and everyone would be thinking about looting. Congratulations, Miss Su. Actually, many companies don't manage their own companies, but hire professional managers. I'm very capable. Is Miss Su interested in learning about it? I have a fantastic project here. Miss Su, just invest 5 billion, and I'll handle everything from there. Miss Su, I've admired you for a long time. Could you give me a chance to pursue you? Hu Qing completely lost his composure. Ru Yan, if I hadn't provoked you, how would you have thought of all this? I just wanted to tell you that love requires loyalty, and to let you know that I'm serious about love. If you're willing, we can start over, especially since you're carrying my child. One had to admit, this guy was all about self-interest, adaptable, and had a face as thick as a brick. But Su Ruoyeon no longer held Hu Qing in any regard. Hu Qing, after the way you treated me, you still want to be with me? Dream on. I just heard that Hu Corporation isn't doing so well. You're the one who's not good enough for me. Once I take over Su Corporation, I'll acquire your Hu family first. Hu Chang's face was dark. He clenched his fist and forced a smile. But you're carrying my child. So what? Plenty of people would want to be the father of my child. Saying that, Su Ruoyeon glanced at me with disdain. Never thought, after all these years of playing the dutiful son, you'd end up with nothing. Aren't you supposed to be filial? You're all moving out of this house today and becoming paupers. My parents, who had been watching the whole drama unfold, were stunned. Su Ruoyeon, are you saying that now that you've taken over Su Corporation, you're going to kick us all out? Of course! You abandoned me for your biological son, and you only gave me 5 million when you had so much money. You were the ones who were heartless and unjust first, so don't blame me for being ruthless. Su Ruoyeon, now in power, was acting high and mighty. My parents stared at her for a long time before nodding. Very well. Thank you for your ruthlessness. It severed the last ties of affection we had. My father sneered and called in a lawyer. The lawyer efficiently opened a document folder containing a notarized document. My father said solemnly, Su Ruyen, I know better than you that human nature can't withstand testing. That's why I had this document notarized before you got married. As long as you treated Ace wholeheartedly, your inheritance would remain valid. But if you betrayed him, the will would be null and void. Ace won't get a dime from you, but neither will you get anything. Su Ruyen trembled as she flipped through the notarized document, repeatedly muttering, impossible. But the feel of the paper and the official seals were undeniable. She couldn't deceive herself any longer. It was real. Su Ruyen completely panicked. Mom, Dad, I was wrong. I was just angry that you were biased. Forget it, I'm willing to accept the 5 million. Too late. My parents' tone was devoid of any emotion. When you gave Ace 10,000, he refused it, and you wanted him to leave with nothing. It's the same now. You don't want the 5 million, and we won't give you anything. Su Ruyen, who had just been the center of attention, was now standing alone in the venue, looking lost and helpless. She hesitated, wanting to throw herself into my mother's arms. But my mother wouldn't give her the chance. Security, take this woman away. No. Su Ruyen struggled desperately. Wait, I have one last question. Just one last question. After all, they had raised her for so many years. My parents wouldn't deny her final request. Speak. Since we were switched at birth, where are my biological parents? Tell me quickly, I want to find them. Seeing the hope rekindled in Su Ruyen's eyes, I understood what she was thinking. She was thinking that the Su family was a prominent one, and the family that could have switched her must also be well off. If she could go back, she would still be a wealthy heiress. Unfortunately, her hope was doomed to be dashed. My parents had already told me everything when we recognized each other. Now, my mother officially delivered the bad news to Su Ruyen. Back then, we started from scratch. I was heavily pregnant and still inspecting goods at the factory in the suburbs. I went into labor early because I was too tired and gave birth at the factory. It just so happened that a woman gave birth to you outside the factory. She saw that people were calling us boss and switched you with Ace. Then, she cruelly threw Ace into the river. If a kind person hadn't found Ace and taken him to an orphanage, we would have lost our own flesh and blood forever. Saying this, my mother looked at me with lingering fear and heartache. Su Ruyen didn't show any emotion about my ordeal. She just asked urgently, what's the point of saying all this? I just want to know, where is my mother now? And my father? My mother's gaze towards her had become completely indifferent, as if she were a complete stranger. After we found Ace, we found your biological mother. She confessed every ing. She's in prison for theft, and because of the baby switch, her sentence has been extended. She won't be out for at least 10 years. Su Ruyen's face turned pale. After a long silence, she asked, unwilling to give up, then, what about my father? According to your biological mother, your father was a murderer. He was executed long ago. This time, all of Su Ruyen's hopes were shattered, and her eyes lost focus. The crowd pointed and whispered, saying that it was no wonder she was so stupid and evil, it was because of her bad genes, a bad seed. Su Ruyen glared at the crowd, pointing and cursing them back. But the crowd seemed to feel degraded and avoided her, unwilling to pay her any attention, just like they had treated me. Su Ruyen raged for a while, then her eyes suddenly fell on Huacheng. I don't care, you got me pregnant, you have to take responsibility. Otherwise, I'll leak this to the media. You and the Hu family won't have a good time. You crazy woman. Huacheng slapped her across the face, making her bleed from the corner of her mouth. Still feeling unsatisfied, he kicked her. Su Ruyen was already on the verge of collapse. Now, she vented all her emotions on him, clawing and biting him. The two of them started tearing at each other. By the time the security guards pulled them apart, Huacheng's face was covered in scratches. and Su Ru Yen was bleeding from her lower body. My parents and I glanced at her and asked someone to call an ambulance. This was the last thing we would do for her. After Su Ru Yen and Hu Qing were taken away, my parents formally announced in front of everyone that I was being restored to my family and would henceforth change my name to Su Ze. Su Corporation was officially handed over to me. After signing the billion-dollar project, there was still a lot of work to coordinate and handle. I was busy for half a month before I had time to call my goddess. That's right, I originally had someone I admired, but my parents egged me to accept Su Ru Yen. Plus, Su Ru Yen was very beautiful and had a good figure. I thought I wasn't losing out too much, so I reluctantly agreed. Now, her betrayal has given me my freedom back. 8 years ago, my goddess was still a graduate student. Now, she's a successful entrepreneur and a female CEO. 2 equals quickly sparked a flame. 5 years later, I was buying ice cream on a street corner. Suddenly, I saw a couple in the distance, fighting without any regard for appearances. The man looked down and out, and the woman looked haggard. They were somewhat familiar, but I didn't want to think too much about it. I crossed the street and gave the large strawberry ice cream to my wife and the small one to my son. Honey, taste it and see if it's sweet. Daddy, taste it and see if it's sweet. I hugged them close. It's so sweet.